Okay, I'm continuing my essays on my ballet years, and this is part of the Berlin section, the Berlin Ballet, the Deutsche Oper Berlin section. And this is about my boyfriend, Peter. And I met him right after I almost died from getting pneumonia 3 times and my immune system collapsing. So this essay is called The Gift of Peter After I Almost Died. After I was so sick and feeling so weak, the universe gave me a lovely gift of a gentle-hearted man coming into my life, Peta. I look at the amazing timing of all the things that happened that year in 1982, and I can see that the universe had a plan in place to keep me going and keep me sane. The fall of 1981 into 1982 was extremely challenging because I was going to leave the Berlin Ballet and go to Ballet West in Salt Lake City, Utah. Contracts in Berlin require a year's notice if one is leaving. So in September of 1981, I knew I was leaving, and so did the company. What ensued was a long story that I will tell at another time because of its duration, but suffice it to say the conflicts, challenges, and upsets were so severe that they were at the root of my getting pneumonia 3 times that winter and almost dying. John and Kizzy saved me, but I did not realize how tenuous my hold on life was at that time. Clearly, the angels knew that I needed someone to care for me and to love me. I had spent my entire adolescence never dating. Ballet was my lover, and it was a very jealous and demanding one. It did not allow me wiggle room to date or to have the bandwidth mentally to care for another. For me, ballet took everything and all I had inside, daily. In the Berlin Ballet, one of the male soloists would constantly tease me and say, your skin will clear up if you just started having sex. Such comments do not help when you are trying to adapt to a new culture and struggling to find ways through the daily challenges. To say that I was high-strung and tightly wound as a ballerina is an understatement. While I love dance and ballet with every fiber of my being, the emotional and mental toll it took because of my perfectionistic self was a heavy one. Even now, I would not change anything. I would do it all again because when we are young, we think we have endless amounts of energy, and if we just try hard enough, we will make it through. But after being so ill, it was very hard to get my mojo back. The director, Gert Reinholm, was playing a game that I was in a contract dispute with the Berlin Ballet, which was a lie. He decided that he would not release me from my contract at the end of the cycle, but I had a contract with Ballet West and I had to go. The conflict had cost me tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees, and the issue was still not settled. I had done everything correctly, but he threw in some big lures and offered up things that I did not see coming in order to stay. It was tempting, very tempting. In my shock at the offer, I hesitated. I needed to get insight from the other principal dancers, which they generously offered, and I decided to leave anyway. I went back to Gert Reinholm and told him I still wanted to leave. I did not realize that my needing a moment to think things through placed me in a gray zone where now he believed that I would have to stay 2 years to be released instead of 1. It was a manipulative and unfair ploy that those in power use to control dancers' lives. The stress literally nearly killed me because I kept trying to be nice. But I was learning that just because I am nice, that does not mean that all the rest of those in the world are nice. And I came to a hard understanding that I did not really know most people. So I am in a place where I am weak and vulnerable, exhausted and alone, when in comes Peta. We met through mutual friends, and he was instantly attracted to me. Quite a new experience for me. I tended to be the person that men came up to and said, "Suzanne, what can I do to date that other girl over there?" I was always friendly and approachable, but rarely did anyone come towards me. I was as if I walked in a bubble that most would not attempt to step into. For my whole life, that had felt fine, simpler, less complicated. Then Peta shows up. He was in school for finance. His parents owned hotels in Flensburg, Germany. It was a coastal town at the edge of the border of Denmark and Germany. He clearly had money. He had a very fast BMW, and he was shockingly interested In me? His presence gave a glimmer of hope to a young woman feeling as if the world was against her in all areas. But this attraction and attention were complicating. I told him right off the bat that I was leaving. I told him the whole story of the contract dispute and that I had a contract in Utah. I told him I was desperate to go home to the US. I tried to make things clear that ballet was my passion in my life and that nothing and no one was going to get in the way of that. He seemed at first fine with that. He was in school. He still had a long way to go, and he was not ready to settle down. Or so he said. We began a lovely courting that made me feel special as he was a gentleman and not being pushy around the sex stuff. That clearly gave me exactly what I needed to feel my way slowly into the dance of becoming a grown-up woman and a woman that got to decide what she wanted without the social pressures that unfairly push so many towards things that they are not really prepared for. We had a ton of fun. He had those spinning kites that when we would go out and fly kites in the strong wind of Berlin in the parks. He had a fast car, and we would drive it up and down the Autobahn at the top speed in Germany, which was 130 kilometers per hour, which is about 80 miles an hour. While neither he or I had a ton of money, we had enough to go out to dinner and also travel to see his parents in Flensburg. While in Flensburg, I would take off my shoes and dance on the top of the dikes in my muddy feet, and we would walk through the fields of hops and laugh, holding hands. He arrived at a time where I needed a mental break from what had been happening. He was kind and considerate, he was thoughtful and caring, and for a first-time lover, he was everything a young woman could ask for.